I'd like to welcome everyone to episode 42 of Chop 15 with Jay Walker. I hope everybody's having a good Friday. Happy Friday to everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started. My guest is here, so let's not waste any time. My next guest is someone that I have met, and then we knew of each other for years before that. We've actually worked on music together, not together, but together. She's a dope MC. She moved to New York to pursue a fashion career because she also designs clothes as well. TJ, aka Vanessa, aka Fly Nessa. Let me go ahead and bring her in and start the conversation.
Hey,
Oh, what's up?
how's it going? So
Good. How you
weird.
doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay. It's been a weird journey, but things are good. What's up with you?
I'm hanging in there. Same thing. I'm okay. Glad to say I'm okay. Yeah, just trying to live life as best as you can with all the craziness going on.
Yeah, for sure. New York is a mess, but now Nevada is.
Oh yeah, we are a shit show right now. Yes, we are a shit show. How is it out there right now?
Well, it's hot as fuck, and it's so humid that it's really hard to do anything outside,
Right.
unless you have a vehicle of some sort. And it's been, I don't know, it's been difficult because we're still kind of like weary on like taking public transportation, so everything we do is on foot or on a bicycle, which is amazing because you can like go into Manhattan and like ride through the streets. A lot of streets are closed and a lot of people are out and about following regulations. Everyone's wearing masks. I think it's since it hit us hard first that everybody's been on top of trying to like get it over with and like live their lives again. Um, I actually just got back, well, yeah, like about a week ago from Massachusetts, and it's been tough coming back from that because there was like we had a car, had access to like go wherever, go camping and
Hmm.
be with family and stuff, and now I'm back here and I'm just like stuck.
Yeah.
It's like quarantine
So, you
again.
got are you so you riding so when you ride your bike, you riding super far? Cause don't you live in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're everywhere in Brooklyn for sure. We definitely ride. The other night we rode into Manhattan, like across the bridge, and that was pretty dope. It takes you pretty far on a bike. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, we got up to like past Midtown, which is pretty far, and it was great. It was just great, like being out and kind of surreal because it's still pretty quiet. Like once the sun goes down, everything's quiet. But
Hmm.
yeah, it is what it is at this point. Now it's just trying to figure it out, like what to do next.
Yeah. It's crazy how it did hit New York super hard, but it seems like people took it serious there from the beginning. Like even when it was going bad in the beginning, when like everybody was taking it seriously or should have been, it seems like New York kind of stepped up a little bit more, and that's kind of why you guys are out of it now. Not out of it, but I mean it's nowhere near as bad as the rest of the country.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for
I
sure.
kind of wish everybody else would have did that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it was pretty scary because there was so much misinformation, but
Right. Still is.
there still is. And I think because of how humongous New York is and how on top of each other we are, it's so condensed that it made sense that everybody was rapidly like, you know, getting contaminated or like contagious to all of it. So I really wasn't sure what was going on. Like I was working and I was in a management position and people would call me and be like, should I come into work? Should I not? What should I do? And I'm sitting there being like, oh, you're fine. Like, don't even worry about it. Like I was just like, this is not our problem, you know? And
Right.
then when it became our problem, it just was like holy shit, I can't believe this is happening. It's like the next day I went to work, it was like, okay, we're shutting down. Like, we don't know when we're going to reopen again. So start figuring shit out for yourselves. And it was pretty much that. It was
Yeah,
like the next day, it was like, what do I need to do? Like, first off, I was like super like concerned for like the staff members that I was working with, that I just wanted to make sure that they knew exactly what to do. So I was like writing people emails and like telling them like, how to get unemployment, how not to get unemployment, or what other jobs are available out there, or like, what do you call it? Other like places to get help.
right.
And then it became like our issue. It was like, okay, get on unemployment, stop whatever payments we needed to stop, make sure we got rent covered. And I think as soon as like, unemployment kicked in, we were like feeling a little better.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, it took a
So
while out here too, man. They kind of lagged, especially with self-employed people. They lagged in Nevada. Nevada was the last place to get it in order. Like, I mean, it's cool now, because the money's coming now. But for the first 2.5 months of this, I didn't have any income really. You know what I'm saying? It was just
yeah,
whatever
that's
I was doing
scary.
on the side. Yeah. So I mean,
My dad actually was going through the same thing because he was working part-time at one of the casinos out there. And then like my dad's like already had retired but went back to work for a couple days just so he had something to do. And it took him 3 months to get any kind of money coming in. And I had to like
yeah,
from out here help him through all that along with my brother and my nephew. But I like took over after a while, and it was really frustrating to see him frustrated and to try to like tell him like, you're not the only one. But when you're like trying to explain something like that to someone that needs the money and who's also like over 70, like he's just like freaking out, and it makes me freak out because I'm not there to like physically help him. So it was really
yeah.
rough on like all ends of the thing. So
And now everything like some of the benefits are set to expire now, but then everything is literally worse than it was before. So it's like, are they going to
yeah,
extend the benefits? Like, what's going on? So it's just
yeah,
so
and
much up in the air right now.
I know, I know, man. It's been such a wild journey. Like, I mean, even right now, I'm trying to figure out what to do with my life. It's funny to hear you talk about how we met and like why I came out to New York and stuff, but it's a lot harder than it seems.
Well, I can only imagine now. I mean, it's hard enough moving to a big city. I mean, I haven't been in New York. I've been to New York, but I haven't lived there. But I mean, I moved to LA, and I knew how like different that was living there and adjusting there. So New York being twice as big, I could even, it has to be even crazier. And my sister's out there now too, so I totally understand like both of you guys the transition, but I also see why you want to be there because if it's what you want to do and what your passion is there. I mean, you got to go where your passion's at. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I moved out here like almost, it'll be 4 years actually at the end of this month. And I was still like in my prime, like I was 35, still having some energy, just finished school with what I wanted to do. And I was like, yeah, we got to do this. Let's do this. And like, it's tough. It's not like how I left Reno and like moved to San Francisco. When I moved to San Francisco, it was like I hit the ground running and just kept going.
mm,
There were like some accidents in between that like kind of like made me step back a little bit, but it only pushed me further to do what I want. And then moving out here, like it was kind of like, even though living in San Francisco where it's like a city and it's like cosmopolitan or whatever, um, it was still like a shock to move out here. Like everything was
oh, for
like
sure.
different. Like I was like, yeah, I can do this. I mean, it's just like harder work. It's just like when you
Hmm.
get to a certain age, if you don't have that kind of energy anymore, like it's a lot of work. And you're working towards what you want to do because you can't get there yet. So you're working double. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
So
right.
it makes
Working two
things really
jobs.
hard. Yeah, working two jobs, doing two different things, like um and like hustling. There were times like I was doing like three different things in one day and like interning like 40 hours a week, then going and bartending till like midnight or 1 and just being exhausted still, and like having my commute be longer, where in like San Francisco it took me 5 minutes to get home, and
Hmm.
here it takes me like half hour, 45 minutes depending where I'm at.
Yeah.
But in San Francisco, I never wanted to leave the city. When I'm in New York, I'm like down to go anywhere. It's really weird. Like I'm like, sure, I'll go to the Bronx. It'll take me an hour. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But
How is it exploring out there? I mean, or how was it? I know I'm pretty sure you're not doing as much as you were before, but how was it like when you first got there, going to see everything and just exploring the city? I'm pretty sure it was crazy.
yeah, it was like was rough because we moved in the summer, and it was like one of the hottest summers, and like we lived in this apartment that had no AC for like a month, and I thought I was gonna die. I was like, Jesus Christ, like what
Mm.
did I do? Why did I just leave beautiful San Francisco to come in this hot, humid city with so many people that I don't know? Um,
Hmm.
it was tough. I think like the weather definitely plays a factor in your day-to-day like activities, like regardless if it's summer or winter, it's like you're either out all day or you're inside all day, and like if you have to work and there's a snowstorm out there, like you have to be out. It's like you definitely have to be prepared. Whereas before it was like, you're in your car or it just never rained or snow. So,
Hmm.
but it's still fun. Like I still explore. There's definitely like, I'm finally getting used to like the streets, and I think it's because I ride my bike a lot, but it's
Hmm.
still it's still a lot. There's still a lot to see for sure. It's just like
Oh yeah,
harder
yeah.
now because everything has to be outside and can't really do
Hmm.
much. Everything's closing down. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, I have noticed in New York a lot of energy with the protests and stuff. I've been following you and seeing that you've been out to quite a few actually. How has that
yeah,
been for you? That experience? How's that experience been?
I mean, it's definitely one of my first times being involved in the protests and rallies. Like, it's definitely invigorating and like very emotional, I would say.
Mm.
I definitely think like at first I was a little scared because I didn't know what to expect, because people were
Right.
angry. People were just really, really angry more than sad, because it's just like, how many times are we going to have to see this? And
Exactly.
I definitely wanted to be involved because there was just so much pent up energy already from being inside, that like everybody I feel like was just ready to get out there and like do something about it, and which is great because like even if a person of color, like there's a lot of things that I'm still learning and about everybody, especially moving to a place like New
Right.
York where everything is just so open and what can I say, accepting in definitely certain communities, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go out there and see what it was like. And it was at first scary. Like I was coming home from like work, and like it was on my street because they go to different places all the time, and it was like on my street, and I just was like, fuck
Mm-hmm.
it, like now's the time than any other time, so I joined, and it was great. Even though I was by myself, I felt like I was a part of everything, and it was great to be out there and support it all. I think like the most moving for sure was the Black Trans rally at the Brooklyn Museum. Like I didn't even realize how many people were there until like I left. Like I had gotten there pretty
Mm-hmm.
early, where I was like kind of right in front of where everything was happening with the speakers and stuff, and there was
Right.
never a time that occurred to me to turn around and see like how many people were there. And even if I did, I was like a small person. Like I didn't realize until like
Mm-hmm.
we started marching, and I decided before we got onto the bridge, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna dip out because I'm afraid to go still like to Manhattan, by myself.
Yeah.
Even though I was with a
Right.
friend, like I was, because of this virus, like, you still have to be so aware of who you're around and other people's behavior. Not everybody's following it. However, with all the protesting, people were following it because people wanted to be out there. And there was so many people just out there just helping, like giving waters to the protesters or food or free masks, hand sanitizers everywhere. So people were prepared. Like everybody wanted those things to happen. And I was walking back home and I could just see on like the parallel street from where that march was coming from, like how many more people were coming. And I just was like, holy
Mhm.
shit. And then I went online and didn't realize that there were so many people there. And to be a part of that was just exceptional, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah. Um, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the bike protesting was probably the most invigorating, just like 5,000 like riders just like coming down the street, going over the bridge was just like, it was a lot.
That's
It was very,
crazy.
it was very invigorating.
For sure, for sure. Um, are there, let me see, what was I gonna say? Are there any other well, how do you feel about everything with the political spectrum with voting and things of that nature? Are you following politics? Are you a person who follows politics? Or are you a person who kind of just pays attention a little bit? Or like, how would you describe yourself?
I definitely don't follow it like through and through. You know, I follow it when it's important for me to. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
this time around, I got kind of shafted, like because we had moved and my voting place was like a block down my street, and we had gotten like all this information to get like a mail-in ballot, and it never came. And then they started emailing me like what I needed to do to fill out this form. And then it was like, well, you got to go print this out. And it's like they were just making it really hard for you. And it's like, I don't have a printer. I should get one. Actually, I've been wanting to get a printer. And it was just like, oh man, like I have to get this email, go print it out, fill it out. And it wasn't even like a mail in ballot, it was like a PDF, like asking for them to mail in the ballot for me. And they did it like 4 days before we were supposed to vote. And I was like, there's no way I can get this in. Like, I felt like I was set up for failure.
It's
So,
funny because there are a lot of cases like that around the country where it's things are purposely done to kind of impede the vote instead of help the vote.
right, exactly. And I fell into that category. And like, I felt kind of like, I don't know, like I failed, you know, because I was out there like protesting and, you know, doing what I was supposed to do and like making sure that my vote counted, and it just like didn't go through. And like it's frustrating because it's like, am I going to be able to vote, you know, the next time, like, or am I going to
Right.
have to go through the same thing? And that's scary because at this climate, like, we all need to vote. Like
Exactly.
it's our
Right.
given right, and it's what we're supposed to do. So I really hope that I get and everyone gets an opportunity to, you know, not just like people who matter, but like everybody.
Yeah. I definitely hope you do get your ballot. I hope it's not too many hoops you got to jump through because I know they like to do that. So I hope you can get it a little easier this time around.
Yeah, I also am like need to go to a DMV and like change my ID because they spelled my name incorrectly.
Oh,
So I've been like voting under the incorrect spelling of my name. I mean, it's still me. It's really not that like, this is so sad. I'll probably get in trouble for this being live and everything. But it's like they're missing like one letter of my last name, and it like frustrates me, and it's like I can't go to the DMV. They make it really hard. It's not like I could just go there and like, or send it in and like write an email and tell them to just get me a new one. It's like I have to physically go there just to for them to change my last
exactly.
name. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Stand in line, do all that. Yeah.
yeah. So it's been pretty wild.
Man. So let's talk a little bit about you and your passion for fashion. How did that start?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm rhyming here. Sorry.
That's what you do. I mean, it's always been like at a young age, you know, I've always been that way. I've always been the girl, like, and this is probably every person's story, you know, like as soon as I was able to get some money, I was like going to thrift stores, buying clothes because like I didn't want to look like everybody else. And I've
Right.
always like wanted to sew always, and like I felt like I've tried. I would just sew like I would cut up my old clothes and add whatever that is to something else. And the thing with like being in, you know, growing up in Reno, we didn't have those kind of resources to like
True.
learn any of that, you know? Like when you go to college, it's like it's either you're a technician or you're in gaming or you work at a casino or like, you know, I never wanted to do any of that. And like it took a while to get out of Reno to like know that that's what I needed to do. And when it did, and
Mhm.
when I finally had the opportunity to do it, like it just was like, you know, I just hit the ground running and just was nonstop. And I'm really glad. It takes a long time. I think like what I do is definitely harder. Not saying that like designing, like being a fashion designer isn't hard. Like I went to school for pattern making and design. For a lot of people that don't know, it's like basically an architect for clothes. So when designers
Mhm.
like want something made, like they come to me with, and then I figure out the measurements and then like I design it and everything. I draft it. And it's a skill set that is like a long, like a lifelong skill set, you know, because every design is different. There's definitely rules to making clothes. However, like it just depends. Like every person's body is different, or
True.
depending on brands, they might have a different sizing chart and everything. So it's been really difficult for me to get a job in my field because one, it was like a certificate based like education. It was like a what do you call those? A trade basically.
Right. Trade school, kind of. Yeah.
Moving to New York, no one knows my school. Like I don't have enough experience, regardless
Mhm.
how well I am, regardless how many clothes, whatever. So it's been very hard. It's been kind of like it's been an eye opener, really. It's been like disheartening for sure, but I feel like, you know, I can't give up. I've gotten so far, you know, I just keep going. But you know, I apply for these jobs and, you know, I always ace the first interview because it's your personality test, you know. And for
Mhm.
me, um, the second interview is always like an actual test. So it's like I have to test to get a job. And like I am so scared when I'm in these situations because it's like
Mhm.
they're giving you this
Yeah.
like pattern and stuff, and it's like if you do one thing and every brand's different, it's like, you know, you're out of there. So it's been a difficult journey, but because of this quarantine, like, you know, like I've been making masks. I actually like
I'm
made it
gonna get
just
to that.
for
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
I
gonna
sent you
get to
some.
that. Let me. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for those too. We really appreciate those.
Well, Christiane bought some more, so you're getting
Yep.
more. Um,
Trying to stay prepared.
yeah, I never realized how many masks you need until I started like just using up a ton. I was just like, holy shit. And I didn't realize people would want to buy them from me. At first, I was just donating them, and then it got to the point where it was like I had to start spending some money to like make these. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess people want them. Like I need to make them. And
Definitely one of the more comfortable ones, because everybody's different and size wise, and then you get the ones that kind of pull on your ears and stuff. But like yours is soft, it's breathable, it works, and I like the fact that you can reverse it too.
thank you. Well, it's still that way. And I actually made it to where you can change the size on your ear. So hopefully that helps you guys out. If it doesn't, let
Nice.
me know. I'll give you your money back. um, yeah, the cool thing about what I'm doing is that I try to work with sustainable fabric, whether it's like dead stock fabric or recycled fabric,
Good. Yeah.
that I've worked for, basically, or like basically upcycling like clothes that I have and making it into whatever. So a lot of those like you know, are sustainable. And I try to work with that moving forward, just in general, with everything that I do. It's definitely a lot harder and not as lucrative, but such as anything, like it takes time. The great thing about what I'm doing now too is that a lot of people are starting to know me and like know what I can do. So
Yeah.
I get some commissions, which is really nice. So make a little money here and there.
No, it's definitely good. And I mean, this is the new normal now. We're gonna need masks, so this isn't like it isn't something. At first, it kind of seemed like when we got them, like okay, yeah, maybe a couple months we won't have to wear them anymore. It's not the case. It's not gonna be the case. This is gonna be the new normal. I figure we might as well just end up getting used to it and just end up just be like China and just wear masks all the time. Because I mean,
Yeah,
that's what it's gonna come down to.
for sure. That's pretty much what it's going to come down to, and especially now that like some of the states are like lagging behind progress. And it's
Hmm.
wild because I mean it was happening to me too. When New York got hit, everybody like called me. That was like my friend or my family being like, "Are you okay? How are you guys doing?" Blah blah blah. And then it's like when I would tell them what we're going through, um, and how our daily life has changed, like they would just be, and I would ask them like, "How's it going over there?" And it was like, "Oh, we're fine." And like even with my family members, like I'd be like, "Well, do you need a mask?" They're like, I was like, "I could send you some," and they're just like, "No, we're fine." Like it seemed like they weren't as worried as we were. Like they were just like, "Oh, it's a New York problem." Of course it's in
Yeah,
New York.
yeah.
It's,
Hmm.
it's only hitting the big cities. Like it's not going to hit any of these small cities. Like we're fine. We're in cars, whatever. But it's like, I mean, I would be walking down the street 20 feet away from someone, and as soon as they see me, even though I'm wearing a mask and they are too, they would like walk across the street or walk around me or wait for me to walk by them. And it's like,
Hmm.
at first I didn't really understand the magnitude of things. I was just trying to be like politically correct. Like I was like, oh, well, because of all the information that they were giving us that was wrong, like I was like, well, we can't get it. Like we're fine, but I'll just wear it because that's what you should do. You're making a statement.
Hmm.
And when people would walk away, when I wasn't even so close to them, like I almost took it personally. Like I'm like, why are you walking away from me? Like. And then I
Yeah.
realized, like after a week, like I was like, I I I I think like other people, this will happen to as well, and why a lot of people aren't so receptive to following the rules is because it hasn't really happened to them, or they don't know anybody that it's
Exactly.
happened to, and it's just like the whole racism
Exactly.
thing. And it happened to my fiance's father because he was working for a senior living facility in Massachusetts that actually was the first senior living facility that went down, like locked down, and then he ended up
Hmm.
getting it, so it was like too close to home. And then there was like another scare. And like even today, like I have a friend in fucking Idaho, for God's sakes, that has it. And he was pretty much isolated already, decided to go back to work, and within a week he got it
Hmm.
in Idaho. I
Hmm.
think that's where he's from.
It's yeah.
It's one of those. Idaho or Utah.
It's everywhere, man, and it boils down to everything being opened back early, too early, without being ready for the sake of the economy. And
Right.
every soon as everything opened back up, as soon as they opened the casinos here, everything shot back up. Everything.
Yeah. So what is happening over there? Are they closing the casinos down again?
Casinos are still open for some strange reason. I mean, obviously, I know why. They're still open. They have shut down bars. We went back to phase one. So apparently, like no bars are open. Only restaurants or only bars that serve food. But your bar's not open, so like you can't have people sitting at the bar. You're not serving liquor. You can, and restaurants are like encouraged to serve people outside. You can't have no
Yeah.
more than like four people in a group or five people in a group or something like that now. So it's going back a little more stringent. It's like masks are required like pretty much everywhere you go. If you're going somewhere in public, you pretty much have to wear a mask. You go to this, all the stores are requiring them now. But then being that this is Nevada, you know, it's like the Wild West out here. These dudes are mad that they gotta wear a mask.
Yeah. And that shit scares me because, it is the Wild West, and if you like talk to the wrong person and get them riled up, like they have no problem showing you what's up, and it's such a stupid thing, but it's like growing up there, I already know, I could see it. Like
Yeah,
even out here, for God's sakes, the homeless are wearing masks. I mean, it's a great
yeah,
thing. Like they're providing it for everybody. Like New York's been really good. I feel like our governor has done well during this pandemic, and he's even though the economy's down, like he's making sure that he's saving lives. As corny as that may sound.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it, at some point, lives have to matter more than money. At some point, you know, like I don't know where we're gonna draw that line, but at some point, it has to.
It's just, and it's it hasn't hit anybody yet. It's all about money. It's always been about money, regardless whatever situation you're in. It's always about money, and it's just more apparent now than ever. And I just don't understand why there's people out there that don't want to see that,
Yeah,
especially when it's coming from, our leader. Apparently, like all he gives a fuck about is money and is racist and all of that. And for some reason, people choose to like not believe it. And it's so wild to me. And I'm really scared of what's going to happen next. Like, I just feel like it's just going to be another bad situation. And everyone's going to be like, oh, not my president. When in actuality, like, it is our president.
yeah,
So
yeah. I'm hoping
I'm
these
really
last 4
scared.
years. I'm hoping these last 4 years have made it to where people don't sit back and not vote or waste their vote and actually vote to get this guy out of office, man. I mean, it just has to be done. We can't. It can't be another 4 years of this. He set this country back so far in 3.5 years. It's ridiculous.
I
Like
hope
we're
so.
back to like, man, I don't know.
No, I hope so. I mean, I couldn't agree with you anymore. I feel like, the little snippets of the videos that you've done, like I feel like everyone feels the same way. And like I just, these are the kind of things that we said 4 years ago, and then it
Yep,
happened. So you just don't know, like you just don't know. It's just really scary. Try not to
it
think about the
is.
negative
It
stuff,
is.
but it's very scary.
Now let's let's go to something a little more positive. Let's talk about some music. Let's talk
Oh,
about
okay.
you. Let's talk about you and music. How did that
Uh,
start?
Me and
When
music.
did you start rapping?
In middle school, I was writing poetry left and right, like to a point where I was obsessed with it. And I got a little bit older, and I was hanging out with my older cousin, um, Mike Texan. I'll say his name because no one knows him. Only a few know him very well. Somehow, our school commuting were together because he was a few years older than me. I think like he would always pick me up for school and take me to the bus stop, and like he caught wind of one of my poetry and like was just like, you should rap. I'm like, fuck are you talking about? I'm not gonna rap. Like that's crazy. And then I did one day, and like it was about a friend, and then I like read it to him, and then like Robbie was there, I think it was, and Brandon. We were so young. We were like 14, 15, and they were just kind of like pushing me because I was a girl and it wasn't that bad. And then, I met everyone else, and I think a lot of people, I think I was holding back on it for a long time. Like I was just like, it just didn't sit right with me ever, because everything was always so personal. And and it was really hard for me to find my groove. Like it was hard for me to like sound the way I wanted to sound, and like be, starting out as a lyricist, like I was writing everything a cappella. I wasn't writing to a beat, and then once I got to a beat, I didn't know how to put it to a beat. So it was like really
Right.
embarrassing when people wanted to record you, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing, like, and then it got to the point where like I think like everyone just kind of took me under their wing and was like, you could do it. And I had like really good mentors, some that were really intimidating and being like, you got to be better than like everyone else, especially guys.
Mhm.
And I think like I took that to heart, and like that's why like I feel like everything I wrote was like battle rhymes or something. And
Happens. That does happen.
yeah, and I mean not everything, but most, but like and then I just got used to coming to the studio and like writing and recording, and I think like by the time like I really felt my groove, like I had left. It was just like a time where like it was like the right time to leave, like the right time to fly out of the nest. And
Hmm.
I I remember I wrote a rhyme. Actually, I wrote that verse that's on your album,
Hmm.
and I remember writing that in my studio in San Francisco and just being like, man, like I should just keep up with this. Like I should just keep doing this. Like I feel like it was the first time that I was like proud of myself, being like, oh, like I got this. Like I'm a rapper, like I'm an MC, I could do this, but there was still that version of me that wasn't like 100%, like I always felt like I was living two different lives. Like it would be like the TJ in the studio and then the Vanessa like out in the other world. So
Hmm.
it never sat really well for me. And it's funny, like, like though I felt like I learned a lot. I learned a lot about people, and like I learned how much like stuff I needed to get out. Didn't realize it
Hmm.
would affect other people either.
Hmm.
And there's so much music that I like have that I feel like no one's ever listened to, and it's like I just rock out to it on my Dropbox every now and then, and I'm always like, man, someday, but I think I'm far off that already. I've
Now,
lived that life.
is this stuff that's been released already, or is it stuff that hasn't been released? It's just stuff that you've done and you've never put it out? Is that what it is?
I mean, there's definitely, I wasn't involved in like production. We definitely went into the studio, who's ever it was, and like, you'd lay down a track. I mean, just like how you and I met, like we didn't
Hmm.
even meet ever until like 12 years later, which is always so
Right.
strange to me. It's like
That
we
is
knew
pretty.
each
That's like the
other,
weirdest.
and it was like one of the, I wouldn't say it was the first album I was on. I think it was like the second album or third. The first album I was on was in high school, and it was fucking Yonda's album.
Yeah,
Out of all
he was
people,
he
like
was
I
the one.
just,
So, yeah, shout out to
yeah, and
Yonda.
I mean, he was the first one that was like, you should be on my album, and I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like
I don't know what that means.
I'm like 16, like I was like, sure, dude, like yeah. And going in there, and was that token like girl in the studio while everybody else was super hard and like men, guys, and I always had to sit there and like feel really awkward about life. And it was a lot of pushing buttons. Like I felt like a lot of people were pushing my buttons, and I think it definitely helped me to become a better lyricist, not only in
Mhm.
like writing, but also um, like just my patterns and how I say things for sure. And it definitely boosted my confidence, but like it always made me feel uneasy, I'll be honest. Like it never made me
Mhm.
feel like a superpower. Like I would just sit there sometimes and like listen to everybody and watch everybody like record, and I would just be like, God, they're just so good. And I would have to like do it like 15 times, and it never sounded any different, you know? It just was
You're
always
just being hard. You're
just
being
so
hard on
strange.
yourself. You're
And
being
I'm
hard on
always hard
yourself.
on myself. I really am. Like
You know,
till this day, I always like critique myself for sure. So I think that's what
well,
it
I mean,
is.
it's
Just
it's
I'm like
nothing
super
wrong. It's nothing
insecure.
wrong with being your worst critic. it's nothing wrong with that. That just makes you stronger.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's also bad, like like I think it's definitely good when you have someone there like kind of pushing you, for sure.
Yeah,
And I definitely had
yeah.
that. Don't get me wrong, like again, it was just harder. I mean, like, I had like the crew that was in the studio, the hardcore kids or the cool kids like making beats all day, and then like us just chilling in the studio for like 8 to 10 hours, chopping it up. And then like I would go out at night with my girlfriends, and it just didn't seem like it always seemed like a different life to me. Like they would just be like, oh hey, like not really know what was going on, and I would like creep out and like be this hardcore person for like the whole day.
It's two, it was the tale of two Vanessas.
Pretty much. And like, I saw it. I mean, I remember this one time I went into I went and recorded. I forgot whose house it was, and it was my first time meeting God, I forgot his name. Ramses. Pharaoh.
Girl, yeah,
Oh my God, I hope he's not watching this.
yeah.
It's just been so long. I'm so sorry. And he wasn't, I remember him like sitting there and we met, and I remember him not trying to make me feel comfortable. Like he was kind of like, who is this girl kind of thing too. Like I think maybe he thought I was gonna sing or something. I don't know. And he was very awkward towards me and really distant. And I was like, all right, whatever. Like I'm just gonna lay down my track and then bounce. And as soon as I laid it down, like I came in back into the room, and I remember him just like freaking out, being like, "Oh my God." Like respect, respect. And it was such a great validation coming from something like that. Not that I was like expecting it, but I was like, okay, like it just goes to show that I was always uncomfortable in those situations. And it's like I almost had to prove myself every time, Like every time I went in there into the studio, I was like constantly proving myself.
It can
So,
definitely be that way. I know I've been in situations where it's been that way for me in the beginning. But I also know that it's definitely harder on a female. You know what I'm saying? Like you're judged differently, and everybody's looking at you differently. So I can understand the uncomfortableness or the uneasiness you might have had back in
yeah, and I didn't really I didn't see it this way until actually Robbie had said something to me once recently, actually, because him and I were exchanging messages one day.
the day.
And he was just like, well, it's because you were a threat to a lot of people. He's like,
There you go.
and I didn't
Insecure
realize that.
dudes.
Or just
It
like,
happens.
yeah, I guess so. Like, I guess there was like a threat to like certain people, like, because I would go in there and like do a collab with someone, and I might be better than them or just as good at them as them, And if I was good as them, then it would make the song perfect. Like it would be like dope. Like the whole track is great. But if I was better than them, then it was just this weird like chemistry between us. Like it just was like, all right, like sorry to like be better,
Because they probably got shit talked to them when you weren't there. I know how shit goes.
probably.
So they probably got, oh, you got God, da 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 da. And
Yeah, for
then
sure.
you come around, then they looking at you like, yeah, she did get me. I don't like her.
Yeah, a lot of that, and a lot of people looking at you a certain way because they're just like, oh, that's that girl that rapped, and then you get this certain persona, like you're this tough girl, and I feel like I was. Most of the time I was just high and didn't know what was going on. But a lot of times I definitely lived up to that. I always try to be tough, even when I wasn't. And the crazy thing is now is like, there's only a certain amount of people that know me as that person. Even my partner now, when he found out, like he was like, yeah, right. Like you weren't a rapper. you know? Like I had to like play him something for him to like know what I was talking about. And even now, I feel like
Right.
sometimes he's still kind of like shocked. Like I also feel like people don't really want to listen to me rap, you know? Like I'll play something and it's either outdated or like they're just like in shock that I can rap. And it's always that way. I still get that. I still get in people being like, "You're a rapper?" Like, "What?" Or, "Can you do it again?" Like, I'm like, "No." Like, I'm not gonna like show and tell for you.
Right, right. Do you miss it at all? Do you miss making music at all?
I do. I definitely do. Especially nowadays, you know, when I hear other music out there that I don't really relate to. And I think it's just a sign of the times, you know, like I can see why it's like attractive and like really like people love it. But I definitely miss like I miss writing. I write still, but I don't write lyrics. You know, I just
Right.
write just to get it out
Mm.
there. There was definitely a point where like it was almost like the sacred day for me where I was like, all right, I'm gonna give up writing to move on to something else because I just didn't feel like it was serving me anymore. Like it never felt like a personal journey anymore. It almost felt like I had to do it, and that's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I put like all of my energy into learning how to make clothes, and I just kind of put it aside and just like didn't really care for it anymore. And like I think a lot of the relationships that I did have with music also ended, and some in a negative way. So that kind of just put things in perspective for me. And like it was, I knew that like I could work with anybody else. It's just that that energy and trying to find that I just didn't have it in me, you know? I mean, even when like you were like, "Hey, like you're about to move, I really want to get you on this beat." Like even I was hesitant. Like I was like, "I don't know, Lefty, I haven't fucking spit anything in so long. Like I haven't even been behind a mic in so long, you know?" And even that day was great. Like one, it was like you and I got to know each other after being on a song
Right.
together and never knowing each other. And that was like
Yeah. We did only 3 songs.
20 years ago.
We did
Yeah,
only
like
like 3 songs before I met you.
that's so crazy to me because there's only one that I know of, and that was the cool thing back then. You know, it's like you would go to Radov's house, lay a verse, and then you'd go to like Demon's or something, lay a verse, and never know what happened to that verse. You know, until like a month or two later, you go back and you hear it, and then back in the day, no one wanted to like copy anything because it was like sacred. You know,
Yeah.
so.
Everybody had to hold it. Couldn't get it. You had to hold it. No, you
Yeah,
can't
you had to
have
hold
it.
on to
Like, what?
it or like I remember just secretly copying it for people. Just being like, don't tell anybody. You know,
Let me
so
get this. I'll just hear my part.
yeah. But I mean, for me, like it's even crazy. Like I'll tell people, I'm like, oh yeah, I have a song on Spotify. Like, I mean, like I think it's because I don't live that life, so it's hard for me to like express it. And then people that don't know me go, "What? You're on Spotify?" And it's a verse that I laid down like back in 2009. Like I'm just like, yeah, like I don't even know. Like you sound great. Like the whole album's amazing, but again, I'm like so insecure. Like I'm like
You
it's fine.
stop it. Stop it. You sounded great that day. It came out. It came out great. Like I
Thanks.
couldn't thank you for doing that for me because I knew you hadn't rapped in a while, and I don't know.
Been a long time.
I just felt like I better do this now because if she leaves, once she go, like it ain't gonna be easy. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, and that's pretty much how it goes with me, I guess. Once I'm gone, I'm out. It's still that way. But yeah, I definitely miss it. Like, you know, like again, like all the female artists now, like I can see why the younger generation now relates to them, but I just don't unless
yeah.
unless they're talking about something significant or something that I can relate to. But I feel like a lot of the artists now is just all about what they have and what I don't have. So I just kind of forget about it, you know?
Right, right. Well, I do want to say that if you ever, you ever feel the itch or the need, anything I can do, my door and my phone is always on. Hit me up.
Yeah,
We need
no, I
beats.
know.
I got you. Whatever.
I
So.
I appreciate that. Like, I still hear that from a couple people. Like sometimes Brandon will throw me beats and stuff and it's great. Like I love that people still think like, oh, this would go really well if TJ is on this, I love that. I love going back to Reno and like even seeing people being like, oh, TJ, what's up? You still rhyming? Like, that stuff is still really awesome. Like I'm really glad that in some ways like people I still inspire people in that way, you know. Um I just don't have that ego anymore, dude. Like I like that
You
young
don't, you don't
ego.
have, but that's the thing, though. See, that's the thing. I don't either. I don't either. I'm not the same. I'm not the same dude as whatever. But it's now it's the challenge of trying to make something without an ego. Like
It
make
is. It
something
is
without an ego. Make
challenging.
something that says more than I'm the dopest. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. It's so hard to, oh man, like I obviously still listen to a lot of my tracks. I'll probably listen to it when we get off just to relive that hype life. Um
right.
and yeah, like I miss that. Like I really miss like being up on a mic and like just spitting something and regardless getting a crowd reaction. I just miss being able to express myself like that, you know?
Yeah.
Living in cities such as San Francisco and New York, like you're this small, you know? And it was such a eye opener for me growing up in Reno, Nevada, where like your friend from like kindergarten is still your friend and everybody in the whole city.
Hmm.
And like I felt like I was on this pedestal and that like I could do anything I wanted in Reno. And then by the time I left, like that all changed and it was for the best. Like it was like the
That's
best thing
always
that's
the
ever
best thing.
happened to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And like it definitely grounded me. It definitely helped me be who I am today. And even like, being in Reno, being a lyricist, like I definitely feel like it's still a part of me. There's things that I still say that I would write about. So,
Hmm.
but someday I will. I don't know what it's gonna be. I might be 50. It might be like
Hey, I'm not gonna stop making music. My studio is always open to you. So whenever you make it back to Reno and you decide what you want to do, yeah, it's nothing. You're always welcome
thank
over here.
you.
You know that.
So wait, are you guys there permanently?
Yeah,
Okay. Cause
yeah,
when did I leave?
yeah.
So
We
when
moved
did
back
you?
right before everything went bad.
Okay,
Right
that's what
before
I
everything. We
figured.
moved back in December. So I've almost been back a year now, but we moved back in December. So and
Okay.
yeah, it was pretty much everything went bad in like March. So yeah, we got back here right on time. We sold our place in California, came back, and yep.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I was
we're
actually
here.
gonna take a trip there, and then shit hit the fan because I really wanted to see my family, and now it's just postponed.
Yeah,
So
indefinite postponed.
yeah, it kind of sucks. I was really hoping to see them, but I have my East Coast family, so it hasn't been bad, and they're still supportive. There's these FaceTimes and like text messages and all that, phone calls have been helping a lot.
Right.
Hi,
So what's next?
Robbie. I was just talking about you.
His ears were burning. He knew. um. So what's next for you?
I'm working on So Into. I got back from Massachusetts and I had all these like mass requests, so I did that. And then I got kind of lucky and got commissioned to do a jacket. Actually, the jacket's already made. This guy wanted me to just like kind of spruce up his jacket
Okay.
add like upcycle fabric to it, which was really exciting for me because that's kind of how I started with clothes.
Mhm.
And it was fun, like interacting with him and him wanting to work off my design, and I'm working on it right now. So that's really great. It's commission, it's
So,
money. So I like that aspect of it. You know, it's really hard to make money with art, you know, especially when it comes to clothes because I don't know, people might hate me when I say this, but a lot of people don't understand what it takes to make something. I mean, you may be able to relate because I know what it's like to make these beats. You know, it's funny, like when people are just always younger people who are like, I want to start making beats, and I'm like, kind of like give them this like, okay, kind of look because I know what it takes, like for you to be in a room all day, never seeing the light of day, to
mhm.
make a beat that only lasts for like 2, 3 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing with making clothes. Like, you know, like a lot of people don't understand that I make a pattern, I draft a pattern for each clothing and or each piece of the clothing, and then I have to sew a sample of it to see if it fits,
Mhm.
and then I have to fit it and then refit it and then recreate it or edit it if that doesn't fit or change the fit, and then have to sew it over and over, and then
That
finally
sounds
cut
like
it, make it something new in the fabric. It's a lot of work, and that's why it costs a lot of money. And I feel like I get a lot of like resistance when someone's like, well, how much would this cost? Can you make it for me? And it's like, yeah, it would cost this much. And they're like, what?
Yeah, people, yeah, you always get the resistance when the money gets drawn into it. You know, once you start saying a price, everybody likes your art until it's time to pay for it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Then it's like, then it's, oh, it's that much? Oh, it was
Yeah.
cool, but you said that might, oh, okay, I see how this goes. All right.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand that, you know, especially coming from me because I'm not I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not you know, designing stuff to put on t-shirts, and that's very easy. It's easier, you know, it's hard for the designer, but it's easier to get it done because you're resourcing the fabric, you know, you're the manufacturer, you just send them this like idea and then they print it out for you and they mail it to you. I take something from the ground up and build it, and it could take weeks and months to do one thing. And like I just feel like, you know, because of this fashion and how things are like um, being sold nowadays, like people don't appreciate it as much anymore, even though they want it, you know, even though they want to get their pants hemmed or their suit tailored or like taken in. It's like, you know, everybody
Right.
wants that, but they just aren't willing to pay for it.
Yeah. Well, man, I hate to cut you short, but I'm getting I got about a minute and 20 seconds left on this live. So, 'cause they only give you an hour limit. So,
Has it been an hour?
I'll, yeah, see, it
Wow.
goes quick. It goes quick.
I thought these were
I
supposed to be
want to
only
thank
15
you.
minutes. Sorry, go ahead.
They were, and then it just got changed, you know, thanks, you know, we just talked. So I do want to thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. It's great to hear from you. It's great to see that you're doing well in these times, and continued success
Likewise.
to you.
You too, Lefty. I hope I see you soon. Take more
Yeah,
pictures
I'll
of
see.
my mask.
Definitely, will do. When they get here, will do.
All
Um,
right, send me a beat.
yes,
Maybe I'll write.
I got you. I got you. You'll get
All
something
right,
soon. All
bye.
right, girl. Bye. Well, man, I got about 20 seconds left, so I want to let you guys know that this was episode 42, and I'm going to be taking a break for about a couple of weeks. I'm going to line up more guests, and I will be back the first week of August. So you guys stay cool, man. You can watch all the episodes on Jaywalker Media.